Last night, Ryan Blaney was disqualified. Let's break down how that affects the NASCAR playoff grid. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Happy Monday. Nothing better than a fresh start to a new week. One person who I'm sure tossed and turned all night, who desperately needs a fresh start or maybe a fresh restart if he could, is Ryan Blaney. Last we talked, Ryan Blaney was scored 6th at Las Vegas, had collected, I believe, 8 stage points. A solid performance in the round of 8 opener by the 8 seed. But I'm sure many of you woke up this morning to news that Ryan Blaney has since been disqualified. Yes, last night during post-race inspection, NASCAR found that the left front shock in Blaney's number 12 car did not meet the overall specified length. As a result, Blaney not only loses his 6th place finish, instead he'll be credited with a last place finish, he also loses the 8 stage points he collected. Every other driver who finished behind Blaney, not only in the race but also in the stages, now moves up one spot. So now let's take a look at the updated playoff grid because this has major effects beyond just Ryan Blaney. Of course, now Blaney drops to the very bottom, minus 56 points. If he wasn't in must-win territory before, he sure is now. Ryan Blaney has to win. Homestead Miami Speedway this next weekend, he's only got one career top 10. It was a 3rd place run back in 2020. But Martinsville, the week after, Blaney has a few top 5s, including a couple of 2nd place finishes. Short ovals have been hit or miss for Ryan Blaney this year, but I would look at Martinsville being his best chance to win his way into the championship four. That's what it's going to take. On one hand, that is a very daunting task. But on the other hand, there's no more nuance. There's no confusion. The objective is clear. This DQ does affect the rest of the standings as well. For example, Byron was +9 last night. Now he's +11 because he gained 2 extra stage points by leapfrogging Blaney. Hamlin now breaks the tie with Truex. He's 1 point ahead, but Truex did extend his lead over Christopher Bell by 1 point. Reddick, I think, actually gained a point, I believe. He's now -15. Chris Buescher still -23, but there you go. An updated look at the playoff grid after last night's late disqualification. This is the second Ford driver/team to be disqualified in the past 3 weeks. Didn't happen all year. Suddenly NASCAR seems to be cracking down, or at least taking a closer look. Harvick at Talladega, Blaney here. Both Ford teams, but 2 completely different organizations, 2 completely different issues. Harvick was a safety issue with the windshield fasteners. Could have also come with an aero advantage. Blaney's issue with the shocks. It's hard to say NASCAR is narrowing in on one particular issue. I think it's just the playoffs. I learned yesterday that NASCAR does in fact do a basic post-race check of all playoff drivers and cars. That's how this Blaney infraction was found. It's the most important time of the year. I'm glad NASCAR is not lightening up. They should be scrutinizing these playoff cars very closely. I'm sure next week NASCAR will display the confiscated piece. They'll likely explain to the media exactly what was illegal. I'll be at Homestead this weekend, so hopefully I can find out for myself exactly what Team Penske did wrong. But again, one final look at the updated playoff grid. 2 races to go in the round of 8. The big change, Ryan Blaney needs to win. No pressure. Before we move off Las Vegas entirely, we haven't done this segment in a few episodes, but I want to take some of your comments from last night out of the crowd. Many of you reacted to my criticism of Martin Truex Jr., James Small's pitch strategy at the start of stage 2, which ultimately derailed their day. They still finished top 10, but they lost out on valuable points for no reason. I was clearly not the only one baffled by that strategy call. Got this comment from stage winner MTJ, fitting. Please give us back Cole Pern. We'll do anything. I don't know where Cole Pern is. Didn't he open like a ski lodge somewhere sometime? I don't think Cole Pern is coming back. But as hard as I was on James Small yesterday, and there's been a few moments in the last year or two where I haven't agreed with his decision, like Richmond earlier this year where he didn't tell Truex he was on old tires and was kind of a sitting duck. I don't always agree with how they communicate with each other. But that being said, Remember, James Small and Martin Truex Jr. were one untimely caution and a lightning-fast pit stop from Kyle Larson away from winning the 2021 Series Championship less than 2 years ago. Maybe they haven't been able to wrap their arms around this next-gen car as well as others, but James Small worked with Cole Pearn. He is good. Is he as good as Cole Pearn, though, who basically turned Martin Truex Jr.'s career around overnight? No, probably not. But the next gen is so different, it's so hard to tell. And also, to be fair about the radio communication, back corner turnings makes a good point. Truex has always been emotional, even pre-James Small, pre-Cole Pearn even. Look at this comment. Truex has always been emotional over the radio. I remember him screaming at his MWR crew that they were all fired. Yeah, I forgot about that. That is a classic clip. That clip is like 10, 11 years old at this point. Martin Truex Jr., he's always been a little emotional behind the wheel. It's an emotional sport. I get it. I don't always think it's productive, but to each their own. On a different note, one final comment here from Untoasted Bagel. More great mile-and-a-half races just keep making me think the championship should go back to Homestead. Yes, Untoasted Bagel, I'm sure you are not the only fan who shares that same sentiment. The next-gen car races at mile-and-a-halfs better than it races anywhere else. I think Las Vegas yesterday with that close side-by-side finish proved that once again. Phoenix, a short, flat oval, will host the finale this year. It will also host the finale again next year. Realistically, we'll likely have to wait until at least 2025, at least until the next TV agreement for NASCAR to even consider changing the championship venue. It suit Homestead for a long, long time. I'm a little worried about right now, honestly, because Homestead, great track, is so unique. It clearly seems to cater itself towards a specific kind of driver. Kyle Larson is scary at Homestead. To me, a track more like Las Vegas that I think is a bit more neutral. It seems like everyone's had good runs, bad runs there. I think that would be a great championship venue. And Las Vegas, another West Coast city like Phoenix, a little more glitz, a little more glamour. Hey, maybe Las Vegas would be the perfect candidate. The problem is that Las Vegas is an SMI-owned track. NASCAR owns Homestead Miami Speedway. They own Phoenix Raceway. They own the championship date. I think they would prefer to keep that date at one of their tracks rather than lease it out to a different company. Although NASCAR and SMI have a good working relationship, have for years, it's business. NASCAR is going to be selfish, and that is their right. If the Auto Club short track ever becomes a legit thing, and if the next gen car ever races better at short tracks, I could see that becoming a championship venue. It's in the Los Angeles market, Hollywood, NASCAR owned. Wouldn't shock me if that track was considered in the future, but it's got to get built first, and that's no guarantee. Thank you all for leaving your comments. Speaking of the next TV deal, the current deal with Fox and NBC does not expire until the end of 2024, but here we are at the end of 2023. Typically, NASCAR finalizes these deals a year and a half to almost 2 years before they go into effect. John Ourand, writing for Sports Business Journal, provided an update of sorts this morning. I'll link the full article down in the description below, but I want to read a few sentences. Firstly, Sports Business Journal acknowledges that these negotiations have gone on for a long, long time. John Ourand writes, back in the spring, sources said to expect new NASCAR deals by the middle of summer. In the middle of the summer, they pushed the likely agreements to Labor Day. This week, executives did not want to hazard a guess, not even off the record. Although, reportedly, these delays are not necessarily bad news. John Ourand continues, by all accounts, NASCAR's negotiations are going smoothly. Fox and NBC have told NASCAR officials that they want to renew at slight increases over their current deal. To help secure a healthy increase in overall media revenue, the circuit carved out a package of 6 mid-season races. Amazon and Turner have showed the most interest in that package. So, there's nothing new, I guess, other than don't panic. Although a little deeper in the article, I thought this line was interesting. The other component to the tightening sports marketplace is that digital streaming companies such as Amazon, Apple, Google, and Netflix are not spending as wildly on sports content as leagues and teams had hoped. That is interesting. I feel like ever since Amazon started spending, over $1 billion a year just for Thursday night football, everyone just assumed that would be the norm. New streaming companies outbidding the old traditional media. That may still be the case for the top sports properties, the NFL, college football, the NBA, soccer in some places. There are still bidding wars for those properties. But if you're not in that elite company, it sounds like you may be fighting for what's left. I don't know all the details, but I know the Pac-12 recently ran into issues. So where does NASCAR fall? Are they closer to that elite category where media companies are trying to outbid each other for NASCAR's rights? Hey, the CW is going to pay well over $100 million a year for the Xfinity Series starting in 2025. Or is NASCAR kind of in the middle somewhere, or even closer to this category? Hard to say, but I wonder if that's sort of what's slowing down these agreements, is companies don't exactly know how to value NASCAR, and maybe how they value NASCAR doesn't align exactly with how NASCAR and the teams value themselves. I'm just thinking out loud. Obviously, I don't have to keep saying this, but the next media rights deal is hugely important, not only for the fans. It determines how we will get to consume our favorite stock car racing series. But right now, Fox and NBC fund the vast majority of the industry, whether directly or indirectly. Directly, in the case of like the tracks. The tracks rely on TV money as their largest source of income. Also directly through things like the purse money, which pays out to the teams. NASCAR corporate is largely funded by TV money. But TV also funds the sport indirectly. The channels that these races are broadcast on affect viewership. That affects what teams are able to sell sponsorship for. So needless to say, the next media agreement is a huge, huge deal. I hope the teams get what they're asking for. They're asking for a larger split of the TV revenue. I hope they get that. I hope the tracks get a lot of money and can funnel some of those funds into facility renovations. I also want a deal that works for the fans. If in fact Fox and NBC renew largely, I hope the majority of cup races are on Big Fox and Big NBC, traditional broadcast television that you don't need a cable subscription to watch. At the same time, and I know many of y'all hate when I bring this up, but we have to consider the future. Streaming. I look at NASCAR's TV ratings every single week, and on average, only an estimated 15 to 20% of NASCAR's TV audience is under the age of 50. I'm thrilled that NASCAR has that kind of loyal support from longtime fans, but at the same time, if stock car racing is to sustain itself or even grow, it needs to get at least a little bit younger. It needs to do a better job reaching and resonating with younger audiences. NASCAR needs to challenge itself and think of radical new ways to package its product beyond just traditional television. I think the YouTube POV onboard live streams they do most weeks are pretty cool. That's a great start, but let's go even bigger. Let's go further. TikTok, Instagram, social media is a big deal. Events. People my age love to go to big events. FOMO is a very real thing. I'm not smart enough to know exactly what NASCAR should be doing. I think the Netflix docuseries covering this year's playoffs is a start. That's great. But I'm challenging NASCAR to come up with new, original ways to package its product beyond just the traditional 3-hour TV broadcast window. That doesn't mean we need to have, a Toy Story game like the NFL did in London a few weeks ago, although that was kind of cool. It just means we need to get creative. We need to think outside the box. The old way of doing things is not reaching younger viewers. That doesn't mean the old way of doing things should go away. Keep Fox, keep NBC. If TNT wants to come back, hell, that's some nostalgia right there. But on top of that, let's try some new radical ideas to try and reach audiences that currently we're failing to reach. I know that's broad, I know that's vague, but that's the best I can do this early in the morning. But thank you all so much for watching. Leave a comment down below your take on the Ryan Blaney penalty, some of the Martin Truex Jr. banter. Let me know what you're thinking down in the comment section below. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe. That button is down there somewhere. If you're new to the channel and you love all things NASCAR, we talk racing every single day. Huge thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. I will see y'all later this week. Have a wonderful rest of your Monday, folks. Take it easy and take care.